1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Perfect.
Can you move your head maybe a little bit?
Yes,
And
here and
talk at
now.
the same time?
And now we're going to be talking very soon. Yasas, Kalispera.
Yay, that's great.
And how do you say welcome again?
Καλώς ήρθατε.
No,
Καλώς ήρθατε.
No, the simple one.
Yes.
The selfie. Kalos,
Καλώς
kalos,
ήρθατε.
kalos ήρθατε.
Yeah.
That's great.
We are on the third day of FESOFES 2025 here at Michael Kakoyannis Foundation. And thank you to all the participants, all the panelists, all the moderators. And now we have a keynote, the only keynote speech, the only lecture to be held by my friend Pavel Yek. I'll tell you, it's an honor and a pleasure that Pavel accepted our invitation. Let me present him. He's a graduate of FAMU Film Academy in Prague, and then he had a master's at Columbia University in New York City. And also he served as for 2 terms, 8 years as Dean of FAMU. Then he founded FAMU International for international students, collaborating with NYU, Yale, and other top-ranked American universities, an international program held in Prague by FAMU. And also, he has taught courses at Sundance, Berlinale Talents, the Mediterranean Film Institute. He's head of studies and artistic director of Midpoint Institute. And also he's working as a script editor, script analysis, and screenwriting professor. He's currently working as a dean of Chapman University at Los Angeles, California. Chapman University is one of the top-ranked American universities with film departments in the world. So he's also written Grand Hotel, which premiered at Berlinale, and he's edited so many scripts. I mean, I cannot even tell them, because I'll take all his time. So please welcome Pavel Yek.
Thank you, Lena. Thank you, Athena, and thank you, Katerina, and everyone else who has made this opportunity possible. So I'm having a short discussion today on this topic. Next slide, please. Yes. Thank you. Oh, first slide, please. First. Okay. So the question for today is about writing short scripts in the digital era. I don't have any presentation of myself, but you'll see lots of other interesting people in the presentation. The next slide, please. So here's one of the most this is a top film director, no longer living in Czech Republic. When I started as a young teacher, he was teaching directing to a group of students, and I was teaching screenwriting as a very beginning teacher. And what I was struggling with and what I realized was these students, they want to write long scripts. They want to write feature films because that, at the time, that was their ambition. But the task was to make a much shorter script. And I know that we were struggling with presenting the great directors, the proper scripts to the students. And I remember at one point he said, you cannot expect to start a concerto. First, you must learn to play the scales. So what we did as teachers, so next slide, please, was try to come up with some guidelines on how to adapt the principles of drama, which we have known for at least 2,500 years, how to adapt them to the short form, because no one really, people understand the long form, they're even taught that in school, but the short form. And so these were I don't have time to go through it, but these are kind of like the 10 main areas that we focused on in those 10 points. And then next, please, a second list of about 10 other strategies on how, within the short form, to leverage the practicalities and necessities of making a short film to the advantage of the screenplay. So these are little chapters. Next, please. And we actually, it ultimately was printed as a book, which is in several languages, including in Burmese. And I have a copy of that. It's not in Greek, but this little thing we devised, it became a small textbook for the school, and it's used throughout film schools in different places. But I'm most happy with the Burmese translation, which they gave me. So next, please. But where is this coming from? Where were these limitations that we were devising? And by the way, that's available on PDF. I can give it to anyone who's interested in that short manual. Really, it's coming. We realized we're coming from a philosophy of character-based storytelling, and I know that I was fortunate to visit the Agora and other places today, and Aristotle, as you know very well, famously said that plot is more important than character. But we're living in a time, perhaps, of character-based storytelling. Definitely, that is often the goal for the narratives that we strive to create, and it really is coming from two Central Europeans. One is from Prague, Frank Daniel, who was from Prague. Later in Hollywood, you see his picture there with a less famous person in front of him. When they founded the Sundance Institute together, the charismatic one in the back is Frank Daniel, František Daniel, who, for instance, he said many things, but one of his great sayings is that every story is about somebody wants something badly and has trouble getting it. That's from him. But there's many dramaturgical points you probably recognize for him. The other is another Central European from Hungary, slightly earlier, Lajos Egri, who in his great book kind of led a manifesto against Aristotle. Said, no, it's crazy. Character is more important than plot because you can't switch the character of Romeo and Hamlet. If you put Hamlet into Romeo and Juliet, nothing would happen. He would just sit there. And if you put Romeo into Hamlet, he would get killed in the very beginning. So this was his argument about why character is more important than plot. And this is the assumption we're working under. Next, please. So here's Aristotle thinking about what character-based story might mean. Actually, his Poetics do kind of acknowledge the importance of character, but so what are some of the characteristics of character-based stories that we're trying to develop in these narratives? Definitely it's about personal expression. Definitely it's about having something to say, a theme which is both universal but very, very personal. This is always the challenge, completing a character arc for a character, where both the want, the conscious goal of the character, and the need, the subconscious goal, again, these are terminology from Frank Daniel, is completed. And this leads to storytelling that very often promotes, but we kind of believe goes to the heart of storytelling, empathy. Empathy for the people in the story. The reason why perhaps that we are attracted to stories is that it broadens our understanding of the world and of other people. So empathy and representation are things that, two important qualities that emerge from successful character-based storytelling. And this is a quick lecture, but we can take questions later. So thank you. But the narrative film, the short film essentially it has practical reasons why a film is done. The main reason that people make short narratives is for training. They train themselves as writers, as in all the technical fields, as producers. Really, the only place that these films can be shown ultimately is festivals. It's a great way to promote the films. And very recently, I was talking to a student from India, and he was saying, "Yeah, I can't put my film on the internet yet because it's still on the festival run." And so, even we're in the digital age, we're still in an age where students, if they want their film to be successful, really need to go for that 2 years of festivals before they even put it on something like YouTube. Sorry, let's just go back. It's an opportunity to make other films, but it's not the end in itself. I often ask students if their career plan is to make a short film and then make more short films for the rest of their life, and they look at me like that's a crazy suggestion. No, it's not anyone's dream or aspiration. They want to make something longer, but they need to do the short one. That's why we have to make effective training for the shorts so they can succeed in the longer one. So next, please. My early days as a teacher, a lot have changed since then. It was still kind of a semi-analog age at that time, but now digital has completely taken over. What has that meant? A lot more short films are being made because the technology is more accessible, it's more available. Often it's even better. Don't say that to a cinematographer necessarily. This has grown to a lot more film programs because it's very expensive to teach film, but less expensive if this equipment's accessible. So many more schools. My school, for instance, in California, I didn't even know that school existed when I was a student, but it's only been there for about 20 years, but now it's a very big and influential school. And it's also a lot of festivals. I don't have specific statistics, but this has all grown immensely in the last 20 years. So a lot more places for the short film. Next, please. But there's other ways to make short films, as we know. These are just some categories. Experimental film is very often constricted to the short form, not always, but very often, and that's a very important movement of film. But music videos, which are everywhere, and commercials and advertising, which are everywhere, that's also a short film. And they're not necessarily narratives. They often rely more on what we could label as spectacle, just the impressions that the films give, the environment that they show, or something that catches our eye, the visual aspects of it, which are not necessarily connected to narrative. So let's go to the next. So I looked at a couple of places where short form is prevalent, where people are watching and consuming. So these are statistics on the top 10 most watched projects on TikTok. So next, please. Primarily, it's this guy, Zach King. He does short little films. They're basically optical illusions. This is almost what some people that were working in early cinema were playing with, over 120 years ago. A lot of his tricks are actually analog based. They're not necessarily with mirrors and so on, not just digital. But it's definitely not dramatic narrative storytelling what he's doing. He's a character for sure, but he's not telling a story. And about this idea of shorts, where can you actually have a career as a shorts? This is a very, very lucrative career for this person, making short little films like that. Will he move to the longer narrative? I have no idea. Maybe he doesn't even aspire to that. So similarly, the next, please, YouTube. Again, I've looked at the top 10. This is sourced from Wikipedia. Let's go to the next slide. And I thought this was interesting. The top four of the top five films on YouTube of all time are actually animations for pre-school children. Animations made for 2-, 3-year-olds. So I thought that was interesting, especially with part of the theme of this thing. Again, they're not really narrative. They're very small situations which are meant to enchant us and entertain for a very short moment. Next, please. So where is the place for character-based storytelling in the digital age? And what we're talking about are these stories where they have the full character arcs, where you have this dynamic of the want and need that Frank Daniel espoused in the process. Stories that really carry a theme the way that only narrative stories can carry them. So with all these new digital opportunities, can short narratives actually work as a commercial enterprise? Well, some very, very smart people bet $2 billion on it. Next. So Quibi, perhaps you've heard of it, perhaps you haven't. If you haven't, that is definitely a mark of how their bet was misplaced. So, this Jeffrey Katzenberg, very influential, very wealthy person, very smart, and a team of also very smart people believed that they're going to make a streaming network based on short films. Why not? People have short attention spans, people carry phones with them, people like shorts. It went bankrupt very quickly. Which was my instinct too, but no one asked me why. But so I have some thoughts about why perhaps does this short narrative not work as a commercial venture. So next, I think it's two main things. The second is most important. Audience attention. You have to adapt to a new story just for 5 minutes, a new world, a new setting, a new genre, new rules. That's a lot of work for the audience to do that. When we go watch a feature film, they say you get like 30 minutes to draw the audience into that world, to know what they're watching and accept that they're going to be in that world. Shorts do it very quickly. But also, more importantly, the characters. It's a lot of work also for an audience to get to understand and really have a profound connection for a character just for a short time. And if you're expecting to tell a full narrative story, to have an impactful arc is very demanding, difficult to achieve, and not necessarily something an audience wants to watch like 10 times in a row, go to 10 different movies very quickly. So it seems that people actually prefer to return to what we know, especially with characters. And so I'll go to the next. I'll just pause for a second to talk about proof of concept. This is another proof of concept is basically when you make a short film, which is a presentation of what you could make as a feature film. And usually people do this because they don't have the money, they don't have the resources, the ability to make the feature yet, but it's a bet they make. So there's been some very interesting ones pre-digital age and up to now. So Bottle Rocket by Wes Anderson, El Mariachi was a big hit. It really put Robert Rodriguez on the map. Pixels, Saw, District 9, Whiplash, most famously, most recently, very quickly, he made a short. There's a still from it that went to Sundance, and within a year, he had a film that was also a feature film that was getting an Oscar. So proof of concept it's a commercial strategy, but it's not really an end to itself. Again, no one's going to make one proof of concept after another. They're only doing it as a stepping stone to get to somewhere else. So next, please. So where are we getting character-based storytelling in the digital age? I think it's in the long form. Places like Netflix, Disney, Amazon Prime, etc. This if you remember this Quibi project, which put a big bet on people watching things for just a short time, actually the digital age allowed something else, allowed people to watch things for much longer time. Binge watching, which really didn't exist until digital formats existed, maybe on DVDs, but definitely on streaming now. And with people having the ability to return whenever they want to or devote a big chunk of time. So let's see the next one. So what I think is, I just listed a few of my favorite things from the streaming era: Breaking Bad, The Crown, Fleabag, Succession. You know, the thing that all these long form share is when we're working on a narrative short or a feature film, we're always working on how to finish the character arc, how to complete it, how is the theme fulfilled. The secret of these things is the character arc never finishes. They just keep it going as long as they can. There's some kind of conflict between the want and the need of these characters, and it never gets resolved. If they ever come to an end, it does get resolved. There's a very powerful end to Breaking Bad, for instance, or Succession has an interesting end, which kind of is a resolution, but not a resolution. In dramaturgical terms, the want and need is never resolved. That's what keeps the series going. That's what keeps people going. So it's a different type of exercise than what we do in the short or in the feature. We try to find a way to finish the character's journey. In the long form, we try to find a very interesting conflict that never ends, that people keep wanting to come back to it. So let's see the next one. Where else is the digital landscape taking us? I've heard gaming mentioned here because students love gaming. So gaming has a lot of similarities to cinema, and these are just some of them. You know, the way the cinematography is executed now, the animation, the sound design, these are all skills that are transferable from one medium to another. And I'm not a gamer myself, but I acknowledge that there's many benefits to people devoting themselves to games. Apparently it teaches, there's an argument that it teaches skills which are very useful in other forms of life. It definitely builds community because gamers create a community with themselves. And there's an agency that, you know, because people take on a character and that's often how they engage in the game. But there's a key difference. The gaming, at least as I see it, is not creating a situation which builds the empathy and the expression of a dramatic theme the way a story can. So it looks like cinema. It has a lot of similarities to cinema, has even people talking and doing actions, but it doesn't communicate the same way that cinema storytelling can. So next one, please. Another place that you know, we're being bombarded by is artificial intelligence. You know, every day see something new with this. I'm definitely not an expert on it. I'm just trying to catch up like everyone else. But what we know from today, from now, it's definitely a place where people can build proof of concepts. They can build presentations. It's a good way, again, of showing a building block for what they would prefer to do in the future, which maybe won't even involve artificial intelligence. It's definitely great at creating this term spectacle. Like you see these, you can watch for like 2 minutes these really bizarre things that people have kind of prompted AI to create, and it kind of creates a sensation, and it's intriguing. Does it really carry any meaning? That's, I have not, again, I need to be convinced, but it definitely creates intrigue and spectacle, and it definitely captures our attention. I think for experienced filmmakers, using AI is good, like as a sparring partner, as a way of kind of like testing, questioning, but really it's a way of externalizing their inner voice, perhaps. It's not really the artificial intelligence that's doing the work, it's really them talking with each other. But the question is, what will new creators that come up through this, what will they bring? Will they create something that's an expression of their own experience? We'll find out. The next one, please. So because we're talking a little bit about children's cinema, and because it's so tempting and so easy, perhaps, like especially in these short animations, to rely more and more on AI to create things. So I'm very curious, and no one has answered this question for me yet. What's going to happen to so far, the collective human subconscious has only been from images made by other people or from things that exist in nature. Now we're starting to see things that were just created through AI. What's going to happen, especially for young people or new people in this world who primarily see things from that? How is that going to influence their collective subconscious? I have no idea, but I know we share a collective subconscious, and I know that all the art that's created by humanity over the last thousands of years is something that we all share. We have more direct or indirect knowledge of it, but now new things are going to come out that no human made. What does that mean? I don't know. So I'm coming to the end of this short presentation. Takeaways from our evolving digital age. We see so many opportunities for entertainment and spectacle, but let's not forget, or let's not stop creating character-based storytelling, which we know is a way to express personal themes, which we know can result in character empathy and in representation. And that's my short talk for today. Thank you, and I'm available for questions.
Can we now open the discussion, and maybe you have some questions for Pavel based on what you've seen there, based on his short lecture?
Yeah.
Okay, we have two students there from the digital arts and filmmaking department in Evia.
Hello. Okay, you can hear me. Hello, I'm Kat, and my question revolves around the proof of concept short films. What do you believe we should focus on when we are perhaps writing a script about the proof of concept? First, like which part of our feature-length script we should focus on? And second, in which state could the feature film be? Like, it's a feature-length script, so we're probably not over with it. We're probably maybe even on the steps of what's happening, or in the middle of the story. Which part of the feature-length film should we have in mind while writing a short proof of concept?
Yeah. That's a great question, an important one. I don't think you need to be finished with the feature script, because actually what happens sometimes for less successful proof of concept is when someone tries to take the whole story of 120 minutes and put it into a proof of concept. And usually people are smart enough to shove it all in, but it doesn't really create a good experience, an emotional experience. So it's really more about giving us a taste of that world, one situation. So I think it works best when it's a balance. It's hinting that we know this can be a feature film, but actually it works as its own short film as well. So it's a situation which has its own beginning, middle, and end, and it's a situation that belongs in the world of that film, but it's not telling the whole story of the film. So I think it's completely fine also not to be finished with the script, because maybe based on the reaction to this proof of concept, it'll influence how you finish the script as well.
Hello.
This one.
I aspire to be a scriptwriter at some point. And what compelled me to start is character creation. I was always interested in it. I find it very hard to write characters for short films because I get too attached to them, or I make them too interested to me at least. And I don't know if I should make them compelling but simple, so everybody can follow them for a short amount of time, but not to leave them with wanting to meet them more, or make them as I like them, as compelling as I can, with a background rich that can't be presented in 10 or 20 minutes, and use this as a proof of concept to promote a series or a full-length movie.
Yeah. Also, really, relevant question. So even people writing long scripts get too attached to their characters and have trouble, fitting everything they've discovered and like about that character into that space. But one of the things about the short film that we noticed when we started really teaching it was, it's so unfair, because in a feature film you get like 30 minutes to know who your character is before the story really begins. In a short film, it's maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And you're right, the character really shouldn't be like superficial or an uninteresting character. It still needs to be a rich character. So it's a very unfair form because actually it should be as deep and rich of a character as possible. That's accomplishing one thing. The other thing is then how do you put that into a very short story? But proof of concept is one of the ways. Just one situation that character finds themselves in. It's a big part of the trick for the short is finding the right situation that can be resolved within that period of time. But if it's a good short, we can probably imagine those characters in a much longer film because or even in a series because they have so much to offer. So don't shortchange your characters. Just have to. It's like sometimes we say like that cinema's like it's like first impressions, and we always make first impressions of people when we see them. So, but in cinema we can choose when we make those first impressions because we choose when the camera's on, what the situation's on. So you have to find the right first impression, especially for the short, because you have very little time for us to understand and believe this character.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was interested in the comment about if and whether short films can be commercial and why they're not and so on. But actually, I mean, the law of the world says that if many people like something, ice cream, chocolate, etc., alcohol, this is a commercial thing, right? YouTube and any old platforms prove that short clips, not necessarily short films, are wanted. People like them. So why doesn't it work that it's also commercial?
Yeah. No, so those, I mean, YouTube is very commercial, TikTok is very commercial.
Exactly.
But what's coming there for the shorts is not a narrative film. That's my point. It's like we see things that fascinate us. Someone does a funny trick, or there's a short little animation with a nice song and there's a little joke at the end. It's not really a story for a narrative. For the narrative, I think people would rather. At the same time this became popular was also the binge watching of the long form. So people love characters, but they need a longer space for it. So my only argument is that if you try to make short dramatic pieces, it doesn't seem to be a commercial demand for it, as was proven by the Quibi $2 billion bet. But it didn't catch. Audiences didn't want it. It closed very, very quickly. This bet on narrative as a short, but we still make lots of shorts because students need to make it to train themselves and become storytellers. But what they do is leave those stories behind and then go make the longer form if they're lucky.
I was surprised to read recently that in, I think, Korea, they're writing episodes, 5 minute long, series with 5 minute long, which means you watch it in the tube or something. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know if this is commercially viable, but I was shocked when I read it.
I don't know. I mean, I know because we have a lot of students from China in California, and they are very active when they return back to China. We stay in touch. A lot of them are now currently very talented students doing vertical cinema. So it's made for the phone where you look at it like that. They're making short films, but they never talk about it, at least when they talk about it back to us, as something that they're especially proud of. You know, they're very proud of the 20, 30-minute films they made at our school and what they're planning. But this is like, well, this is a job. It's so I don't know how much narrative is coming from that, or if it's more just about grabbing our attention very quickly. Which is a legitimate form of cinema, but it's not character-based storytelling, which delivers personal experiences.
Can you please say your name and your capacity, please?
Okay. Hi, this is Dimitra Dimou. I'm a professor at the Those are my students, by the way. Very proud of them. Digital Arts and Cinema Department of University of Athens. Okay, I'd like to focus in a little part of your presentation because it has struck me with the idea that perhaps gaming has made a little bit of harm, has harmed cinema in a way that video players tend not to empathize with the characters while they are faced with very dramatic situations, killing and tragedies and whatever. Okay, so later on, when those video players are spectators, how on earth does cinema going to gain their empathy towards their characters and their interest in general?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I mean, I don't know if it's, it seems like there's people that are gamers that just, devote like 20 hours a day to gaming. And then there's people who are fascinated by watching cinema. Gamers is apparently a much bigger industry than cinema is currently. Actually, I have a cousin who worked for a big gaming company in California. And this was before I moved to California, and I was visiting him, and I also had a meeting with this little company that they were allowing to have a small office inside their big building, which they're getting rid of because they're getting a bigger building. And that little company inside the gaming company, which basically only has one game, which is League of Legends. So the little company was HBO. It's like, oh, we let HBO there because they kind of need the space. But so gaming is completely overwhelming us in terms of like the amount of money and attention. But I do agree that it's not the same experience as storytelling, even if it looks like, some parts of it look like a movie. It's and you said it. It's the heart of it is I don't think it creates empathy in the same way. I know that people have profound experiences while gaming for weeks on end, and they identify with the character that they have agency over. But I think one of the main reasons why it's not the same is that cinema storytelling allows us to identify with people that are not like us at all, and we can't control them. We have to see what decisions they make, what actions they make. We don't control them. So
in your opinion, has gaming created an extra difficulty in creating empathy within cinema, within a cinema plot or character?
Yeah. Sorry, can you repeat that? Yeah.
Has gaming itself created an extra difficulty why a spectator cannot empathize with the cinema characters like they used to?
Yeah, I think it's up to the cinematic storytellers to pull people in. So I think because whenever a film's not completely working, or like if we show a film to students and they don't like it, I say, it's not your fault. I know it's like on the list of like great films. The filmmaker didn't find a way to pull you in to like it. And what we find is when people don't like something, it's usually because they don't identify with the primary character. That's the main reason why people don't like a film. It seems to me. It's not a study, it's just an impression I have. And so I think cinema can fight back. People are maybe more visual literate now because they look at screens much, much more than they did 50 years ago. They see it everywhere, including games, including phones. So if the character-based storytelling is going to succeed, it's the people that are creating those stories that have to be able to lure the people in and succeed at that, and not just use other tricks, which all filmmakers always use other tricks to enchant the audience. But are they finding a way to get the audience to identify with the character? And I think that's the filmmaker's responsibility, not the gaming company or anyone else who's doing something different.
So no tricks, no excuses.
Yeah, no excuses.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay. Thank you very much.
I agree.
Thank you.
So, on one of your slides, there was one example of a program that at home we hate watch it. And I'm wondering about whether you have to empathize and like characters in order to be absorbed into a story. So Succession there was no good person in that whole thing.
I agree.
White Lotus, a bunch of really awful people, and yet so many of us get completely drawn in and stay with it.
So this is something that kind of went through very quickly in the presentation because it's usually for a longer discussion. But I think this is something that Frank and Daniel identified really well. This very two simple terms of want and need. But it's also key to how to do a short film, and how to take a complex character and put them into an easier situation. But I think that, to your question about these unsympathetic people, it's usually if the storytellers create a clear goal for that character, which is called the want, and they identify that this character has something psychologically within them, a need, which has not been addressed. It's called the need, which is usually the character is unconscious of it. It's something that if they were aware of it, they could fix it, and maybe there wouldn't even be a story. So definitely like a story like Succession, all these people have very strong needs. And we wouldn't have the story, because they have such perfect lives, if they didn't have the needs, there would be no story, because they could just enjoy life. They have everything. But they don't have it. And the audience understands that emotionally, those that care to watch it, that get involved in the story. And so there's two little tricks. One is that, as Frank Daniel pointed out, the more the want and need are in conflict with each other, it's usually the more interesting the character will be. So you find a situation for the character where their goal is actually working against their need. There's a lot of reasons why this is true to life, and but it works really well for character-based storytelling. And what the creators of long form are basically doing is continually giving wants that are against the need. It's the situations happening. There's one unsympathetic situation, like in Croatia or wherever they go in Succession. Then there's one in New York. But it's always the same thing. The character's always acting the same way, but they're never getting closer to their need. And that's those of us that get addicted to that storytelling, we're curious. We're like, when are they finally going to, evolve as a person? When is the story finally going to end in a happy way? But because it's such an interesting conflict, people that watch it are happy to watch it again and again and again. Yes.
Hi, Pavel. Thank you so much for that lecture. I want to go back to the short format, and I know Quibi was a huge failure, and I was at the beginning of it. People were urging me to create Quibi movies, and I said no. But I am a consumer of shorts. I like shorts. I particularly like, Modern Love from the New York Times, which was in Amazon. It's started documentary, and there is a whole broadcast channel, Shorts TV, I think it's called. I don't know what has happened to it.
Yeah.
But they used to take all of the short films that were nominated for the Oscars and didn't quite make it, weren't shown anywhere else. So I don't know if you could speak about.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, it just doesn't seem to be such a demand. Short TV, they contacted me a long time ago and also offered one of a short film that I made, but I never really heard from them again either. I don't even know where to find it. So it's, it's something that always comes up. Well, these short films are great and they're telling great stories. Why can't we find a market for it? I think the festivals are a pretty good market, but when someone goes to a festival, they know they're going to a film festival. They know they're going to a block where maybe they're going to see 5 or 6. They're ready for, okay, my mind is going to be in Argentina for this film. My mind's going to be in outer space for the next one. They're ready for that. But usually just for people relaxing, trying to find some time in their own lives, I don't think they want to put the work into getting into a new film. It's interesting about this podcast, The Modern Love, which is, you're right, it's a series. It's only audio, right? Or is it?
I think it was audio first, and then they dramatized it. They brought in like big stars like Tina Fey and all of these.
It's a popular format. I think that's the familiarity of it. It goes. We know we know it's going to be a love story. We know it's going to be slightly unconventional. We know it's going to have some kind of gratifying ending. There's many characteristics to the Modern Love series that I think it can attract enough listeners or viewers because of the familiarity of it. And I think that's one of the challenges that short films have, especially made by people that have great new visions, is that it's not familiar to the audience. And so that's why it's not going to be commercial. It's just not going to be millions of people wanting to watch it. But if it's a great film, they're going to get a career making other things and perhaps creating something which will become familiar later. Sometimes characters from shorts do become longtime characters. Actors today, at least in the US industry, they're encouraged to make more and more of their own content so they can, so they don't just rely on what people are giving them. So they also try, actors who are looking for careers, trying to create characters in little short situations, hoping that in the best case, someone will want to make a series based on that character. But in another case, that they recognize something about that character that might be good for giving them an acting job. So people are creating shorts for many reasons, but it still seems it's always for a bigger goal in the future. Yes, here you are.
Okay. So you mentioned Breaking Bad as a strong character example. And Breaking Bad is one thing, but then this same actor, I don't remember the name now, made another series, a mini-series called Your Honor. I don't know if you have come across this.
I know, but I didn't watch it.
Okay, it's a great series.
Yeah.
It's an honorable judge, and his son is involved in a car accident, and he kills a person, and he leaves the person, and so he's kind of obliged by the situation to break bad again. So that worked very, very well. And I have the opposite example of Squid Game, which had, I believe, the first season that everybody saw, had a great impact all over the world, the Korean series. But I happened to see the second season, which I don't even remember because there was no drive to the main character. There was one main character, the winner of the first season. But then he wanted to do something which was of no interest. So probably they made it for commercial reasons, or why? My question is, why did this character fail? Why did Squid Game season 2 fail?
Okay, great question. I have a friend in California who says, well, if they didn't think it would be good, they wouldn't have made it. Squid Game was a phenomenon, so of course it would be almost criminal for those that think about the money to not make a second version of it. I only saw significant parts of the first one. I didn't watch the second one, but the first one was successful not only because of this gimmick, this situation, which grabs our attention, and some people are not even interested in watching that situation, but they're still attracted. They still are. Their curiosity is raised, but it really is working because of the characters, and the characters are all coming from, the more downtrodden part of society, and they're given one chance to kind of get out of that situation, which is something that just about everyone can identify with. So that's what made the characters interesting. Probably the second one, there wasn't enough attention paid to the characters. They already knew the format. Maybe that, I'm only speculating, maybe the character from the first season had already gone through a major arc, right? So his story is finished. Now we have to put him into a new story. You have to create a new arc, but maybe it wasn't as compelling as the arc that he was going through. Yeah.
The creators of the game. And the main element which connected, I would say, all gamers of the second season was Lust, because they wouldn't give up the game. I mean, no matter how strongly the main character was telling them that, you're gonna get killed. I mean, this is it. And they would go for the next game, the next day. So Lust would be the common element. But I think it didn't really work. That was my question. Thank you.
Thanks.
It's not hi. I'm Isabel Mingron from the Nextus platform, educational platform based in documentaries. So thank you, Pavel, for the presentation. It's not really a question. It was just I was just pointing out that we've talked all the time about fiction and what happens with nonfiction, what happens with documentary films. I think that the narrative structure is precisely the same, because you really need to have a strong character, and short films are working really, really well in documentary.
Yeah.
So perhaps it's the same. It's not a question. I was just trying to make like this reflection about
I wasn't considering documentary in this, but because not some documentary uses elements of narrative to help structure itself, but it's absolutely not necessary for documentary to do that. So I don't know. There's documentary audiences are also smaller, I think, than fiction audiences, and I think if we thought about it, maybe it's some of the reasons are similar. That it's challenging to enter a new world that's unfamiliar, and so people have to make an effort for that. So when we're as consumers, we'd rather go back to something that's a little bit more familiar to us. I think that's my
if
guess.
we manage to empathize with the character that is explaining, a story, their own story, that is really, it would be more or less the same structure.
Yeah.
I was just wondering.
Yeah. No, it's a lot to think about there with the nonfiction. Yeah.
Isabel said that in fiction films, you need to make the situation, the characters, everything believable. Whereas when you follow a documentary, you see things that are not believable, but they're true because it's a documentary. So that's why I believe, having the experience of the Thessaloniki Film Festival, we have very loyal audience in the documentary festival, and maybe Elisa Lado, the general director of the festival, would like to comment on that.
I have no idea why it's. No, I don't have any comment, and don't ask me.
I mean, the only small comment I'll make is I think that it's wonderful that festivals have really grown and they have a great response, but it's a different type of audience that goes to a festival. I think they're willing to take a few steps when they go to a festival, as opposed to people that just consume in their private time and so on. So festivals allow us to be in more challenging cinematic experiences, regardless of the genre or the form.
Also, maybe it's just a speculation, but if you open your Facebook, you have tons of image that comes from reality, all these cat videos, whatever. This is not documentaries, but this is reality. Well, it's reality.
Maybe.
In a way.
Yeah.
Characters are supposed to be reality. So you don't need to invest too much in time or imagination or efforts or emotions to get into maybe this reality. It's you are used to it. So maybe that's why we have a loyal audience, and many documentaries are short in the festival also. I don't know, it's maybe one of the, we're used to watch reality. Okay, it's one scenario.
Is there any other question, or would you like to give us a final comment, Pavel?
A final comment. I don't know. Again, this was kind of a provocation to remember character-based storytelling with all the changes that are happening, which are exciting, which are valid, that we have to accept. But the hope is that what's endured for so long, this ability of stories to allow us to expand our experience through identifying with other people, that let's hope that continues, even with all the new toys and tools that are available today. Yeah. Thank you.
let's take a 5-minute break, and then we come back at 7 for the second panel.
Yeah. Please, because you will answer much better than I will.
Okay, testing. You can hear me? Perfect. Okay, so Kalispera and Kalos Sirfes to everybody. Thank you. Thank you for our live audience. Thank you to our Zoom audience that is connecting from everywhere. I am honored to be in the great company of these amazing women who are doing amazing work. Thank you, Athina Rikaki, and thank you, Lena Ramu, for hosting us once again at Fest of Fests on the third day at the Michael Kakoyannis Foundation. Thank you. We will be discussing two aspects of a very broad topic, which is film education. And we're discussing film in education, how to use film for education in formal and informal settings. And we're also discussing the art of teaching film or teaching media, and how do we now respond to the needs of the students today, both in the classroom, both in where do we get our inspiration to do these stories? So just a little bit about me. I am Carol Colmenares. I am based in New York. I come from Colombia, but for the past 30 years, I run a production and post-production company in New York. My career started in Sesame Street right out of college, and I stay there. And I'm going to bring up, something that I think is pertinent to this panel discussion. I, at one point, worked in the international department of Sesame Street, and we used to have Open Sesame, which was the product that was broadcasted, and that was in all the European countries. It was in Greece. It was in Germany. It was in Poland. It was in Norway, and it was also in Pakistan and Korea. And I was running that program, Open Sesame. And the reason I bring it up is because there were it was a very special project that had many different cultural needs. And each country had their own special curricular needs and their own special cultural needs. So with that, I would like to start the conversation by letting you introduce yourselves and allowing you to tell us a little bit about what the projects that you're doing and who you are, and welcome to Fest of Fest.
Thank you, Carol, so much. Shall I start then?
Yes.
The mic. Hi, good afternoon to everyone. First of all, diving into issues that have been related to the film that you've seen. So imagine that. Now go back to today with teenagers that are in a digital universe. How do you think they feel when they have the opportunity to learn how to read images, when they have the opportunity to participate in meaningful debates? So this is what's next to us, the educational platform based in documentaries. That our aim is to reconnect students with storytelling and debate. That's mainly what we do. So, this is the small introduction. I will pass the word to our... I'm Isabel Minguillon. I'm responsible for the project. Well, I'm now dealing more into... I've been responsible for the project for the last 4 years. I'm more devoted into the content part, the acquisitions of the documentaries, and the internationalization of the project, which is thanks to our partners in Greece. Thessaloniki Film Fest is one of our partners. We're also implemented in Germany with DocFest Munich, with Indie Lisboa in Portugal, with Soto di Cioto in Italy, and with Macedocs in North Macedonia. So we'll explain you a bit more later on. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Hello, my name is Kelly Alhanati. I am a creative producer, I'm a film director, and I'm also a children's and pre-adult books writer. I love kids, and I always wanted to do things that have to do with kids because kids are the future. So I find it very, very interesting to take a small fairy tale or a bigger one and make it into a film, short film or bigger film, or a documentary, or I don't know, miniseries for platforms. I think that fairy tales educate kids, and at the same time, films and short videos educate kids as well. So we can make these two together, connect them, and make something new happen that not only educates kids, but make them closer together and help them find out more things about Europe, for start, and then even more far away. This is just a small start about the things I want to say today. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you that we have the chance to be amongst you once again. I'm so happy, I'm so glad that we are all together once a time. And my name is Irini Delidaki. I'm a kind of supervising the educational programs of Thessaloniki Film Festival. I'm in charge of design and implementation of the educational actions. And as you said, I think that we have the same beliefs because my personal interest, if somehow I can narrate it, it's what happened with film education and personal development of kids, especially of teenagers, because I feel that it's a very difficult age. So I have noticed, as we discussed with Isabel this morning, that film education is something like an instrument in order to feel express themselves. I don't know why, maybe because they feel like they're not alone into the screen halls. I don't know, that's how. It's my personal interest. I think by the extension of the Thessaloniki Film Festival educational programs, the vision is make film education a self-expression means, something like that, I think.
Thank you.
My name is Elise Jalado. I work with Irini. I'm the general director of the Thessaloniki Film Festival, which is proposing many programs of film education, all age groups, and whether film literacy workshops about the history of Greek cinema, but also learning with the films as tools to serve the school curriculum. And I think, or even making your own films. We had some project also in the past with Erasmus and with other countries also. So we have explored more or less all the options of film education. I come from France, and my first internship was in the National Center of Cinema, and I was in charge I was in the group who was creating a new program called Collège au Cinéma. It was in 1989, and the concept behind was to bring kids to cinema and not like let them alone watching image. So the concept was, and I think that it's exactly what we are trying to do, is to contextualize, to accompany these. It's not only about cinema and images, it's about explaining what you see. This is called film literacy. And the idea was that we educate kids to learn how to read and to understand the words that they see on a piece of paper or a computer. And in order to do so, they have to read books. And the books were taught at school and explained and commented. And that was exactly the same thing that they were trying to do with films, because our world is filled with images, narratives, short stories. It's everywhere, but we need to be able to read these animated image, these moving features. And the best way to do so is to see the classics or see the to go back to the basic and the grammar of cinema and to explain what you are seeing at the moment. And that was this. And I think that we are continuing this job and this project.
Okay. So perhaps Irene can tell us a little bit about the Cinema Museum, or maybe we can start the presentation there, since that is a nice segue into the politics or the policies that you have had at the Thessaloniki Film Festival, what you have been doing, and you can,
Can we use the PowerPoint, please? Okay, thank you. So every time I participate in these panels, I feel a little bit insecure about my English. So because I feel that I prefer to speak by heart, but maybe I'm not so secure to speak by heart in English, but I make an effort. Today I'm going to make an effort to share with you two of the most important Thessaloniki International Film Festival action plans. Firstly, in continuity with your motivation, I would like to say that we can go to the next one, please. We are going to explore the connection with this so, unknown a little bit in Greece, but so crucial informal type of education, film education. And secondly, I would like to present the role of the TIFF in this innovative project, and I can say narrative digital project, Nexus project. Concerning the first part, the festival offers a variety of educational programs, not only into the Thessaloniki Cinema Museum, but also in the screening halls. The main aim is making students be informed for the moving image birth, but also for, the film language secrets. So the primary, you can go to the next one, please. Thank you. So the primary school students have the opportunity to play with optical toys, to travel with some imaginary time machine all over the world to create their first green screen shot, and in general to participate in many other funny alternative film education activities. The secondary education, thank you, you can go to the next one, please. Okay, this is one you can get a taste about the primary school students, and the next one, please. But what happened with the secondary school students? I think that experiences a sort of unique and creative moments, because the educational screenings as well as the programs of the museum offer them not only a critical gaze, as Elise, I think, mentioned that, upon the social reality, but also a chance for personal development. I don't know if I can express exactly myself, but all these reactions that we have noticed during our programs show something unique, I think. It seems as when something magic awakes when the film education ring bells. I feel something like that happens, something not so, or I don't know how I can exactly describe it. Students feel free to express themselves, to share personal moments, like bullying that maybe they have experiences, success or not success love stories, to discuss their concerns and mainly to meet each other better. What might be setting all that in motion? Maybe these film education experiences make them realize that they are not alone, or they identify themselves with characters and incidents. Although the answer is not easy, an impressive conclusion drawn from the teacher's own observations is that during the activities, especially those of the museum where there's more interaction, there have been students that were not very active in the school environment, open up, and more importantly, show a greater willingness to collaborate. We can go to the other one, please. However,
I have a
Sorry,
question.
of
How old
course.
are the kids that participate in this
5 years
program?
old until 18
Wow.
years old.
5
Sometimes-
to 18?
Yeah, 5
Okay.
to 18, 20, yeah.
So you get a full range
Yeah, yeah.
of experiences.
That's
also work with the university,
mass media digital studies.
the students also.
With the so the students are instructors in the
We have
Yes.
we have a program in Evia because we have a mini festival that is taking place in the island of Evia mid June. This is the T-shirt of the festival.
That is
new
the
one.
picture and everybody's invited.
And we have a partnership with the mass media and digital art university, and we work with the students who are in the island.
Okay. So Irina, you get to see the full range of experiences and emotions that come with the art of filmmaking.
Yeah, exactly. I think that we feel a little bit lucky because we have all this, it's a variety of experience, I think. And that's exactly what I would like to say later, and the other audience, maybe more difficult audience, is the teachers, I think.
We will talk about the challenges. We will definitely talk about the challenges.
And I think exactly this kind of challenge comes next us, solve us somehow, I think, because I think that, the first step was that we were trying to make some cooperation with teacher and co-design some educational programs that we implemented in the museum. But, the amazing, interesting platform comes exactly, I think, to align up with this educational aim. We knew that every year we have enough students in the museum and in the educational screenings. But the problem is, what about the teacher? How could we make them to feel a little bit confident to use all these educational activities? So how we can help them to make the moving images as a teaching resources? So when these trips, trips start, we can go to the next one. Sorry, I forget it. Sorry. So when Isabel and Joanne, sorry for the names, but it's our team. When they appears, it's exactly during the COVID period. So I feel that it's one of the good things that giving us this
worldwide pandemic.
Yeah, it was a motivation for us. Because explore and they told us that we have to explore and propose various titles of documentaries, and mainly Greek documentaries. That's why I think that it was a good idea to do something different. The next one, please. So within this context, we focused on documentaries that had participated in previous editions. In a few words, I would like to share with you the criteria of the selection that we have followed in the first phases. We try to do something like that, to give the directors that have screened their docs in our festival in the previous edition once again. And last but not least, we would like to focus on local filmmakers, because we think that Greek students has to, as Elise mentioned, to know the Greek film heritage. So the first phase is something like that, the selection of this. And in the same direction, the next one, please. In the same direction, we have been moving to the second phases of the current program, focusing, however, as we have discussed it last year in this hall, for the generation A. So we discussed, we taking account that an average, as we said, earlier, a short-term film, it will be easier for this generation A. So at the second phase of Nextas, we focused on this kind of films, short films, documentaries, films that will be easier to transmit what would like to work with students.
They're digital natives.
Yeah,
That's,
exactly that, in natives.
Yes,
indigenous.
they're digital natives.
So second step, and the last one, I think, the difficult part, as we said, Ariel making Nextus, one of the reasons that students we love documentaries, and by extension, one of the reasons that which inspire a love of learning in the classroom. So we're trying to familiarize teacher with this platform. I don't know if you would like to say a few words and then continue, because I would like only to say you how we were trying to approach the teacher, doing some seminars or something like that. Do you want to continue? And
yes,
then,
I think it's a good idea to
combine.
To move
them,
on
maybe?
to Nextus. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it's very related. It's using documentaries in the classrooms, from what I understand, and it's not using the full documentary. It's using clips.
What I would like is just if we could push the presentation so that everyone gets familiarized with the. Or maybe we can go, we can go directly to the spot first, and then we can put the full presentation. It's going to be easier.
From the moment we're born, we begin to observe and learn from the world around us. As we grow, we start to question it, seeking our own understanding. Nextus, the educational platform designed to empower young people to find their own answers. Using a visual, critical, and innovative tool, documentaries. Nextus offers students and teachers access to a dynamic digital platform featuring an extensive collection of documentaries from all around the world. Each film carefully organized by theme and paired with high-quality support materials crafted by a diverse team of educators. An education that is broad, open-minded, and transformative. Thought, commitment, action, creativity. These are the pillars that drive us. Imagine what can be achieved with the world's finest documentaries at your fingertips. Nextus. Discover the educational platform at nextus.global.
Okay, so here we have a presentation. What is Nextus doing? Nextus is this educational platform based in documentaries that are high-quality documentaries that are not prepared for educational purposes. They're documentaries that have been presented and won awards in festivals, in film festivals, such as you said before. So if we can go a bit further. Well, this is what Elise just said a while ago. How can we really learn how to read images in a world which is 100% digital? How are we learning and how are we teaching today? So what are we doing with the documentaries? We acquire, it is impossible to have a working session of 40, 50 minutes in a classroom with a full-length documentary. So what we do, if we can go a step further, please. And another one. Thank you. So what do? We acquire the educational rights of the documentaries. We segment the films into clips from 3 to 7 minutes that are self-contained. So that's a bit in the line of what Javel said about the short sort of stories. And we put them together about films that have the same clips that have the same topic, and then we create a pedagogical resource, a 40-50 minute pedagogical resource that opens debate in the classroom related to whatever topics related to, for instance, what you said before, topics related to bullying, topics related to environmental situations, or to whatever, to entrepreneurship, whatever subjects that are of interest in the classroom. We are not curricular. We are not. We don't want. We are competential, and we have cross content wise. We're not really diving into curricular issues. We are more into tutorial, and our main concern is to be useful and to promote critical thinking in the classroom. So what do we have once we reach the platform? You can get 3 types of resources. one, this lesson plan that I've just explained you, that gets 2 or 3 clips and, opens a debate. The other one is the clips by themselves that goes along with a proposal, with a one-line proposal for the teacher to express to the students, and of course the full-length documentary. You can always, go back there, and it's a wonderful window to screen documentaries that wouldn't be seen elsewise, because it's difficult to, with all my respects to YouTubers and YouTube content, it wouldn't be as easy, to get to watch those documentaries. So we also opened this window. That's the main, that's the general idea of what Nexters is. You can go a bit further on, but this is the workflow, as I told you. So we get the documentary, we segment in clips, and we create the pedagogical activities. So an activity looks like this. It can go, related with how a leader is made, or, related with climate change or bullying experiences. And then if we got a bit further, this is what I explained you just a while before. We have 463 active schools that are already using the platform. I mean active, that they use it regularly, because otherwise we are much more. So we've arrived for the last, from September 24 to May 25, we do have 43,000 unique users around these 6 countries, among which is our lovely partners in Greece that are really doing a great job. So this is more or less, we can go a bit further. So you will see that, once you really introduce audiovisual in the classroom, it really works. The problem is to introduce it. But this is something that we work with workshops, as Irini said. We really work a lot doing workshops, presentations, and try to implement what we are trying very hard now to implement the platform in an early stages in university students, the pedagogical university students, because we found out there is a huge gap between teachers that are a bit concerned about digital, they don't feel comfortable with digital material. So even if they are very young, I thought that it was something that it was because of generations, big generation. No, it's nothing to do. You have 30 years old that it's difficult for them to really get involved with digital usage. So once you get introduced into the classroom, you see it goes up, really, And so if we can go a bit further, this is the implementation, and those are all our partners. And I think, this is the metrics. I don't know if you would like to say something, Irini, in this respect. We have 44 schools that are already, it's normal that, in our country, we are, it's bigger. But, we have in Greece, we have 75.7 hours of usage, so that's really good. And what we are now working on is not only with the impact in terms of quantity, but we are now searching for quality. And we are working on best practices sort of book to find out if we have really made a good impact on our future citizens that are going to rule the world in a way. So we really need to promote this critical thinking to make them really more sort of powerful.
Yeah, Hello. Yes, I just wanted to say that it's not a program that you want to spread to whoever wants it. It needs to be introduced correctly to the teacher. The teachers need to be trained. So that's why it's not something that we massively spray slowly we have more schools and.
But I think also you've created a very unique package for the teachers. I mean, speaking from experience in the US, if you wanted to introduce this to teachers in the United States, they're like, we're overworked. We don't want any more
Absolutely.
work. But by you having this pedagogical guide, the clips, the activities that you can do, the additional resources, you even have it segmented by age, 14 to whatever, 18. So it's easy for a teacher that is trained to go in and say, okay, this is something that can support, even though you're not curricular, that can support whatever lesson I'm teaching. So
Absolutely. And I've just missed saying that it's multilingual, so it's in 8 languages, the platform, and that's really helpful as well if you want to learn languages or if you're used, to see subtitled content. So it's also, yeah.
Absolutely. And we do know that children are watching. They do watch. And I want to jump to Kelly, because yes, students do learn from documentaries, but they also do learn from fairy tales.
Yes, they do actually, because every time that I'm presenting a book to a school, because I do that very often, the conversation starts with the kids. I have a book that it's about bullying. It's a preschool book. And I started saying the whole story, but then I play some videos because I shooted some small videos, and I got some really well-known people being part of them. And that was so important because the kids were like, oh my God. And then when they heard this guy, for example, the presenter, TV presenter, saying something, and then they started communicating more and saying their own experiences about bullying. And it was amazing. One day, there was 8 years old kids, I think, and they started talking about bullying, and then one girl started saying her story in front of all the other classmates and said, I'm by myself because this girl, she did this to me, and then nobody else liked me anymore. And then there was this guy that went next to her, and he said, oh my God, I didn't know that you had this experience. Why didn't you tell me? And, they started talking with each other and being a company again, So I think if we can connect books and film in order to educate kids and maybe make them make their own films, it will be amazing. Yeah. And I also want to say that when my oldest daughter was in elementary school, the school made a whole a contest that they said, okay, create your own fairy tale, but make it into video, okay? So we had 25 videos to watch.
Tell us about your proposal, because I know that in your presentation you have a whole proposal for that.
I wanted so many things to say, so let's go to the next one. Fairy tales are original material, and the author creates a character with his imagination, and kind of he's the one who also defines, in a way. I mean, he doesn't actually make the characters, the illustration, but he's part of it, okay? So let's go to the next one, please. So, in Europe, everybody has its own culture, tradition, values, different values. And all the authors make the fairy tales that have to do with the values of each country, the traditions of each country, and how kids see the future or the actual time. So let's go to the next one, please. So the fairy tales can actually parallel with the screenplay, and the fairy tales can be adapted, and they can be adapted not only from teachers or filmmakers, but also from the kids themselves. This is what I think. Let's go to the next one. So we can use fairy tales to educate children through film and television, which is something even a little bit easier We can set a task that fairy tales can be combined to become audiovisual material. And in this way, we will have the education as original material. Education is the most important thing, especially for the kids. So we can motivate kids to make a small film from the fairy tale, using their own imagination to make it happen. Because, for example, my fairy tale have this character, but a kid can make another character, more being like themselves, actually. Next one, please. So each country will have its own fairy tales, and these will be promoted and circulated through all the countries. And that we can make it happen and be all together. In that way, children can be triggered, can be entertained, can develop their critical thinking, which is the most important thing, as we said. And children can learn customs and traditions, values and cultures from each different country, which is so important. Not only in Europe, everywhere actually, but we can start from something. And let's go to the next one. So this is my proposal. We can parallel a script with a fairy tale, and we can train the kids to adapt and film fairy tales. And we can have them travel all over Europe and even in other places as well. They can be inspired through the fairy tales and books and combine education and entertainment as well, because entertainment is a very important thing. Education by itself is not enough. If we can use entertainment and at the same time education, it's the best, I think. And we can make them have short films, and we can make it happen. So can we go to the next one? Yeah. So children's books, education, adaptation, offer for the education of children with adaptation to audiovisual material. Where? In platforms and free TV for the small ones, okay? And then for older ones, pre-adult books, education and adaptation again, offered for the education of pre-adults with adaptation to audiovisual material again, where social media, TikTok, Instagram, and all those social media platforms, you know, you can see every day. I mean, my kids, they make 10 or 15 videos a day. I don't like it, but they do, you know. So why don't we take them and make them create something more interesting, more valuable, okay, and more educational.
So we know that kids, you know, young and pre-adults, like you say, are interested in this type of materials, and they're interested, you know, Heartstoppers broke the records in Netflix and is everywhere and is for young adults, and we see that there is the interest. Isabel and I were talking, and she was saying how all the kids were raising their hands when they were watching the documentaries. So we know that the students have the interest, but this wouldn't be a conversation if we didn't talk about the challenges. So what are the challenges that you're facing, whether it's promoting Nextas or finding a platform to do the fairy tales? Or even bringing kids to participate in the cinema museum?
On our side, I have to say that we don't have a capacity which is extensible, so we already have like how many kids per year with all the the screenings and 15,000, 16,000, so we cannot do more than what we do. If we had a bigger, I mean, the limit is the team, the capacity,
That's the challenge.
But I have to say that the kids have no problem to come. Some schools don't have enough money to pay for the tickets. The tickets for the screenings are €3, and the tickets for the educational programs €2. But the bus and sometimes we give it for free also. So we adapt. If it's an economic issue, financial issue, we can adapt also.
May I say the challenge about the problems or the obstacles about the Nexus platform?
Of course.
Okay. It's not for the Nexus, but it's exactly what we discussed it at the moment. No, the problem was not, we are the teacher, as I said very earlier. I would like to mention that a challenge that we have to confront with it is how we can make teachers feel confident in order to use Nexus and all, I think, the digital platforms, because it's very difficult for them, you know, to understand or to realize that we offer you an attractive means. It's something different. It's something that you can make your lessons more vivid. But they said that, you know, but it's blah, 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 it's not so difficult. So that's why we're trying to make some seminars in order to, you know, to familiarize them with these kind of digital tools. But I think this is the problem that we can persuade them to make the registrations, but the problem is how we can make more, you know, more and more use it. Yeah.
The big challenge is to transform education in a way and try to, you know, we are learning in the same way as we've been learning for the last 100 years. I don't know. So it's time, we're in a digital world. It's time to start introducing audiovisual and digital content in our daily sort of, you know, ways of learning and teaching. That, I think that's the big challenge. And it also, you know, as Elise said, there is a problem. We want to reach everyone. We really think that it should be something available to everyone, to every single kid in the world. So to have access to high quality content. And so that's really also a big challenge because, you know, how can you get the funds to really continue providing with new content, new resources, and accessibility to the platform, which we are working on that, and it's really something that represents a high cost, you know, to adapt
it's a lot of work.
And being accessible. So it just keep going, and keep going. That's the big challenge.
Yes.
And I think the big challenge is also for the kids to actually get more interested about the actual content. Because right now, they only get the images, like they press a button and just see the images. That's why I'm saying it's so important to get content together with the images, because this is powerful. But as he said, it's expensive, you know, you have to have the funds. It's not easy. But if we can find a way to do it, then I think it will have excellent, it will create excellent experience for all those kids in different ages, because the content is very important. And for example, kids don't read books anymore. Let's say that. So at least let's have the digital video together with content of fairy tales, of documentaries, of whatever, serious content, valuable content, so they can be educated and learn some things. That's the most important, because right now they just they don't read.
I think we're seeing a cross-pollination. They see something on the screen, and sometimes that directs them to the book. And in the case of documentaries, they want to, because it is in a curricular setting, because it's in a formal education setting, it will push them to investigate, to do more research in whatever they're studying. So we have 4 minutes left, and I would like to open it up to the public and see if there are any questions or comments. Yes.
Hello, my question is regarding Nexus. And it's an actually kind of uncomfortable question, but I do believe that it has to be brought up. Recently, I was working as a teacher assistant with young kids to learn about cinema and photography and video. And I think
what's a really big issue is when we're talking about more uncomfortable matters, and especially because I noticed in your presentation sexual assault, a documentary about sexual assault, and how it is very important to talk about this stuff, to de-dirtify them in the kids' eyes. But at the same time, when something like that is brought up in a classroom, there may be various reactions from the children, which will be either laughter or they will make fun of the teacher, the content. So how does this platform deal with that? How explicit is the imagery or the content or the descriptions? Because when we're taking from a documentary, a whole documentary, and we're taking clips, maybe then we have the opportunity to take out some content that will trigger the kids and to stay on the less uncomfortable side of things. But should it be uncomfortable? How uncomfortable should it be? Because children are now more exposed to explicit imagery. So when they see it in school, they will react in various ways. So how does Nexus deal with this?
Yes, it's really an issue. It's really an important issue, and we have a pedagogical team behind, because we are from the audiovisual arena. We have a pedagogical team that is really working on all the activities, and we leave it open to the teachers to decide up to when or up to where do they need to deal with the classroom, because they know much better than we do, how the classroom is prepared, if they are matured for certain issues that can be discussed. But I can tell you that our experience, we've done lots of workshops related to different issues. One of them has been sexual assault. And if you give them the space to talk, if you open them the space to discuss, it's really so interesting. They have so many things to say. And they, I wasn't very confident with the new generations, and now I trust them 100%, because it's just that they don't have the space to express themselves. And once you open that, to debate, and they can talk about things, obviously you have some surprises, certainly you do, but it's very interesting and very constructive. But answering, what you just specifically said, we leave it open to the teachers to decide up to when. And we are even creating, excuse me.
Each country is different.
Yeah.
Also.
Has different sensibilities. I remember I had, a certain situation with a documentary that had explicit, someone had a gun and was like about to commit suicide, and the Germans went nuts. They said, but how can you really, show this? And we said, well, no, it's not. Well, for us, well, okay, it's, it's something that obviously it's not, we're not joking, but it wasn't important to us. And they said, put it as sensitive material. We don't want to see this. So it's really, changes a lot.
That's a very interesting question. So how are you working with each country with pedagogical experts in each country?
Yes, we have an international pedagogical team that adapts, or now we're in the process of getting results from focus groups made to different schools in different countries, and get all this information and adapt. We give it for free to adapt, and according to each country.
Perfect. I think you had a question. Yes.
I actually wanted to ask exactly the same thing, but because I want to also add something. Have you ever faced judgment from parents, either because it was the material was too graphic, or the pictures were too graphic, or because some parents are too traditional or too technophobic? And I often hear that, well, our kids are enough at screens. They watch enough TV, they're enough on their phone, even if they're very young. Have you ever faced a parent that was like, I don't want my kid to watch things during the school hours that are supposed to get educated, to undermine how important, at least in my opinion, it is the use of image to learn things, especially for neurotypical kids that struggle to focus on speech alone. Neurodivergent, sorry.
Neurodivergent kids.
Yes.
Yes.
This image that you showed was too much for my kid and it personally offends me. I think it's political or something like this. And how you faced this judgment?
Yes.
Yeah, it's an important question. Thank you. Honestly, we haven't found ourselves in this position. It's been totally the contrary, the opposite. You know, we've had child that we went to a school the other day, and the teacher said, listen, a parent called me saying that he wanted to see the documentary because the child spoke about it during dinner time. Said, wow, really? So this is one of the main, what we really would love to have in Nexters, all the educational community, and that includes families and, But you're right, it's not easy. The only way that we work this is by teaching media literacy and trying to explain how they have to learn to. We are not, when we do the workshops, we're not against the social media. We're not against Instagram or TikTok, but we explain the dangers of the certain usage and the how they share the information and how they use, because they only get that source of information. They don't read, as you said. They don't read the newspapers or they don't have any other source of information, just TikTok and Instagram. So when we explain that they have to be critical with that information, that somehow, parents feel more comfortable with that.
But Irene and Elise were talking about some resistance from parents?
No. Before I give you the mic, I'm just saying, just wanted to say that the thing is that the kids are not alone when they see images that might, or the parents might not want to see their kids watching things that they are not alone. And most of the time the kids watch it alone at home on Instagram or whatever. So it's much better, and it's something that we have to explain to the parents.
Okay, I'm thinking what I would like to add, because I feel that we have enough experience from both of sides, I think. I would like, first of all, add something like, as a member of programming team of NextGen, I have enough...
NextGen is the educational program that we propose during each festival to the schools.
I would like to say that many times the members of our team have these kind of discussions when we're going to see and to select a film. And I remember a very recently experience with the documentary Fighting with Demons and Dragons. Do you remember the documentary? That it's exactly what Katerina and Vasilina said. Exactly that. It's a documentary about all these gender issues. And I remember myself when I discussed with Angeliki that I was so passionate about this documentary that I would like so much to add to our sections. And then, okay, but I remember that I said, but it's a challenge for us because the Greek may not so much teacher. I'm afraid that the parents, that maybe we have the problem and what we are doing if somebody tells us something, but it's okay. But I remember a few years ago, we have a trailer before a spot before the beginning of the NextGen section, and we're going to play an extremely fiction film, Life as Zucchini. I don't know. Life is La Vie Courgette.
My life as a zucchini.
Yeah, and it's an extremely animation film. But before these screenings, we used to play a spot where we have a scene, a small scene with two girls give a kiss each other. And after the end of the screenings, I went to the museum because it's the end of the educational screenings, and I think that one colleague said, you have to answer to this call, please. And it was a mother that it was, a little bit crazy. Why did you show this spot? Can you understand what happened? The student doesn't focus on the La Vie en Courgette. That was an extremely good animation. It's an animation about orphanage, about children without parents. But her mother focused on this spot, and in this tiny shot, and from this time, I think that we didn't show spots before Next Gen. I think,
and also depending on the city also, because during Next Gen we also do screenings in the other cities outside of Thessaloniki, and this year, and there is self-censorship from the municipalities which are programming the films, and this year and last year they didn't want to program some of the films, and they were like, do you have other films? And I said, like, take it or leave it. It's like, you don't want this film, don't program it, but we are not going to propose something else. Yeah.
Oh my God. Lena, do we have time for one more question?
Yes. Thank you.
I think there was one final question around here. Did I say wrong? Yes. Maria. A comment.
Thank you so much. Very interesting. And I wasn't aware of Nexus and some other things. I'm also using short film packages and sharing them with schools in Greece. And I just want to say a positive aspect, because of course all the negatives are there. We have been trying to show packages of short films like 3 to 8 minutes, so it's similar. And thanks to our collaborations with some courageous teachers, they themselves extended the age limit that we, because of ministry issues, had placed. And I think the lesson we learned is that they were adult films, not educational ones, that children are able to interpret as far as they can, even adult stuff, and they can always, if you give them the space, learn or discuss something or open a topic or make the kind of question that they can. And this is very hopeful, because we had the same films from 8 years old to 18, which is a big success. I would love to discuss this with you. And the same films then were shown in, we call them schools for second chance. So they were adult people who never finished high school when they were young. And the same films traveled to such schools as well. So I think if we invest on good quality filmmaking, definitely short films for schools, I think this is a good path, let's say, and we'll find the rest. And concerning teachers, my experience, because I've been training teachers for more than 20 years, is that for good or for bad, they need simple guidance. It's a big responsibility probably to be a teacher. And although they love to watch films nowadays, it's not about digital, it's not about pixels, it's about being able to feel confident how to discuss a film. It's not easy. We have to accept that it's not easy, and we have to introduce them bit by bit so that they feel confident they can face storytelling. I think this is about it. Thank you.
Well, yes, well, thank you. I think it was a very provocative and interesting conversation. I congratulate all the work that Nexus and the Thessaloniki Film Festival is doing. And I do think that children do learn from everything that they're watching, fairy tales including. It's a great opportunity for all European countries to do multilingual, multicultural, respecting sensitivities and respecting language and respecting culture in each one of these proposals that you're making. So thank you, everybody.
And thank you for moderation.
Thank you.